We're going to take 1 minute and then we'll get started. We're just waiting for the rest of our board to join us.
OCE's in charge of it.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday, January the 31st, 2019, and I'd like to welcome you all to the workshop to discuss departmental strategic plans that we'll be covering today. But before we get started, let me go ahead and ask everyone to stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll go ahead and call roll, please.
Yes, ma'am. Chairman Stone,
Here.
Vice Chairman Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Gold,
Here.
Commissioner Zalek.
Here.
Very good. Before we get started with this workshop, there is one item that the board needs to discuss, and I'm going to ask our county administrator to give us a quick update.
Okay, Commissioner, thank you for allowing me to do this brief update related to City of Ocala water and sewer service area. I got notification yesterday from the city manager that the city is proposing to expand their service area through an ordinance per chapter, Florida Statutes, Chapter 180. Uh, from looking at the map and what they are proposing, it focuses on the northwest 80th Avenue corridor, the area across the street from Golden Ocala. They are looking at the Baldwin property north of 489 Industrial Park, and a big section in the northeast where we have several private utilities in that area, I believe, and a section of Southwest 66th Street, Williams Road, and State Road 200, which that area I don't have a problem with. They already annexed that large farm in there that's already has been annexed into the city. But the Northwest 80th Avenue corridor and the Baldwin property, that present a major concern to us because we already have utilities in that area. And if we agree with that or allow it to happen, that's gonna, I mean, in a way, it's not gonna be efficient because we may end up having duplication of infrastructure in the same place. And I don't think it makes a public benefit or public sense to allow this to happen. I don't know legally that we can stop them or not. I would like your permission that we should object to that expansion, and we should have, if we, if either Mr. Minter or somebody else he can talk to be present at the public hearing at the city and on record, present our objection. That's where we are today, as far as I know.
Yes, Commissioner Bryant.
And Madam Chair, I would recommend that if this board agrees with the direction of the county administrator, that we are all also present at that public hearing to voice our opposition and to give the, reasons why this is not beneficial.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great idea.
And I have a short message I have shared with the chairman that I will be sharing with the city manager this afternoon to let him know our position, if you all agree that we need to object.
Commissioner Zalek?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that we should object, and we should object strongly. Make sure that Guy does everything, we file everything impossible, or even if we need to file an injunction on the public hearing, I think that may be appropriate. And make sure no right-of-way permits on county roads at least get permitted or issued for any of their utilities, period.
Correct. Agreed.
And Commissioner, just to be transparent, it's not, from my opinion, from my end, it's not that we don't want the city to serve in areas outside the city limit where we don't have services. But where we have services and we can serve, I think it's a disservice to the public.
Correct.
To duplicate the efforts. And this will also encourage uncoordinated annexation, which will lead to areas that confusion in the public and enclaves that
We don't need.
that we don't need.
Right.
And I will share all that information with the city manager in advance.
Very good. Commissioner Gold, did you have anything to add? I
And
think.
I don't know if the county attorney may share some.
Mr. Minter, would you
Can we
like to?
stop them from
He's
doing
with
that?
them.
Or can we stop the public hearing with an objection?
You can't stop the public hearing.
Okay.
We can make our objections, but you can't stop the public hearing.
So if they choose to go ahead and say yes, they find it in the public interest, then what? Then then as a lawsuit, what would determine the public service area?
Well, if they won't, pull back from what their plan is based on our objections, then your only remedy would be in court. The problem with Chapter 180 is there's very few cases that have been decided, so there's very little guidance on how the court would rule in something like that. And of course, this is one of the issues that was on our legislative agenda, trying to get changes made to that statute that's been in effect since like the 1930s, and so it's really antiquated at the time the statute was created. Counties truly were rural areas, and so if you wanted a municipal level of service, you needed to get it from the city, but we're now in a reality where counties provide almost the same municipal level of services that all cities do. So it's really time to change that statute if we could get the legislature to do it. Historically, and I'll refer to this as the common law of utility law as opposed to what's in the statute. You know, there's certainly a preference that one utility, whether it's an investor-owned utility, privately owned utility, or a government-owned utility, not encroach into the territory of another utility. So that's a general common law principle, but one of the other fundamental points is that whenever you are awarded a service area as a utility, you should have the capability to serve it. And so looking at the map that the city has proposed, there are areas, it shows up as a blue territory on the map, that's already in the city's service area between where they're currently providing service and the areas they're now wanting to add to. Well, so they haven't even started providing service to areas that they already have, which certainly raises the question whether it's appropriate for them to be adding even more territory to their service area. And of course we have in our code, county code, an ordinance that would require them to negotiate a service area agreement with us. Now, you know, one of the legal issues there, if we litigated this, would be whether or not Chapter 180 trumps what's in our county code. So, I mean, there's a number of issues that we'd have to evaluate.
So, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, but for something like the Baldwin and anything else, that'd have to be annexed into the city before they could.
No, if they expand their service area and they.
Well, we
can
could run the
serve-
line, but they would have to hook up to us because of our county code and land development code. Right? I mean, they'd be running their line for uselessness. Because our code mandates that in our area, I mean, if they want a zoning change, right, and a land use change, they usually have to bring us a PUD or something else that mandates they connect to us. Correct?
They connect to utilities.
Utilities where available.
Right.
Right, but in
But
our
you
development
can
code, it would be Marion County
You
utilities.
can make a condition that it will be Marion County. And I hope we don't get to, because that will make the development process so much more complicated and
Absolutely.
confusing.
We would just pull a bond and go run the lines
We don't want to
now.
get to that point.
I mean, can't we, I mean, if they were successful though, we could pull a bond though and start running, I mean, and put a plan in place for future lines.
Well, especially for the Baldwin area,
Right.
we have a
I mean-
plan with the interchange. We will be running utilities from
Right.
across the interstate, and we have been in discussion with the Baldwin that we will serve them water and sewer.
Yeah.
So that discussion has
Sure.
been going on.
Madam Chair, Monier, have you had an opportunity to have any conversations with John Zobler?
Not yet at the.
Maybe they made a mistake?
I doubt it.
No, they have not made a mistake. They've been trying to, that's why they wouldn't renegotiate the service territory with us 2 years ago.
At the groundbreaking on 35th Street, when we did that new building company that is coming in, John mentioned to me that they are working on something like this, and he will let me know. I got the information yesterday. Didn't have a chance to talk to him yet, but I plan on sending him a quick email this afternoon.
Did you send us did you send us that information?
What my response is going to be?
No. Did you send us
Not
what you
yet.
got yesterday?
Yeah, 'cause I don't have
Because
the
I went
map.
back looking and I didn't have it.
I can send it. Can you forward it, please, do?
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll
I'd
send
like
it
to
to you.
take a look at it. I
Okay.
mean, I think they need to, surely they had the forethought to understand that they were gonna get this reaction from us, knowing that we've already got investment in that service area.
Yes. And when Chairman Stone.
That's the reaction they got from us in the past, and when we were working to amicably expand the service area, I'm sure they will not be surprised if they hear this response from us.
When Chairman Stone negotiated the 49 agreement, it was very clear that they were going to serve the lower half, and that the northern half of that service here was going to
Was us.
Was us. I mean,
Yeah.
there was no mistake with that city council and our board.
No.
So that just needs some refreshment.
Very good.
Yeah, how dare they renege on their.
No, I mean, they knew that, because it was the same thing that when we had the negotiation with Stronach up on 326. It was their service area, and they wouldn't do the bulk service agreement. It was clear that we were gonna
Yeah.
service those areas.
You remember that discussion?
Right, I mean, so that's, I mean, I get that they need to expand, but they're expanding without, that's without reason.
Right.
We already have the infrastructure in place to serve those areas.
Well, in the Baldwin situation, they have lines on the new road all the way to the Clifton mine.
Right.
We have lines right to the west of the Baldwin.
Yeah.
And it's in our service area, so,
Yeah, I mean, Duke didn't concede, did they?
no, they didn't.
Exactly. Duke Electric's not gonna concede that area, so neither should we.
No.
Okay.
Duke's a lot cheaper on their electric rates than Ocala is too, just saying.
I don't know,
Okay.
if you,
So
not
if
not
you're-
if you listen to their new promo.
We'll send you all the information, and I will be sending an email to John. I'll copy you all on it. I'll send you a copy. And Angel has a draft to send to the city engineer with some, detailed information about the basis of the request. And we will have somebody attend their meeting.
When is the meeting?
It's
Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
February the 5th.
Okay, so Mr. Minter, you'll be ready to file based on that decision? I'm serious.
Okay. I'll tell you that in the statute itself, and I think I mentioned this to the board maybe a year or two ago, as far as the service area, 180.02 says, in the event a municipality desires to avail itself of this chapter, then it can basically require businesses to connect when available with any sewerage system or alternative water supply system, including but not limited to reclaimed water, aquifer storage and recovery, desal systems, so on and so forth. But what's glaringly absent from this list of these systems that they can expand is a potable water system. So I was talking to Angel about this, and there's a general principle of statutory interpretation that the courts follow, that if the statute provides a list of things that
Stick to
are
the list.
included, then anything that's not in that list is not included. And so, it says alternative water supply, sewerage systems, reclaimed water, and aquifer storage and recovery. And a lot of utilities, they make their money off of the water systems and not the sewer systems.
Right.
So usually they wouldn't want to extend a sewer system if they couldn't extend the water system. But this does not list potable water in that enumeration. So there's some possibility that we can.
I think you should send Mr. Gooding a note. I think you're onto something there.
Very good.
If I gotta put my money on somebody, I got you.
Well, I appreciate the patience of everyone in the audience while we gave direction on that, and I appreciate you two
Thank
taking
you.
it forward. So thank you. At this point, we'll go ahead and get started with our agenda, and I'll call to the podium Mike McCain for program overview.
Good afternoon, Chairman Stone, Commissioners, Mike McCain, Fiscal Manager. As you know, Marion County has developed department business plans since 2010 and strategic plans since 2014. To date, 17 departments have created strategic plans and presented them to you. The final 4 are being presented today. All the department business plans and strategic plans are located on the county website, located on the page of the Office of Fiscal Review. The goals for the department strategic plans are to set priorities, focus energy and resources, strengthen operations, ensure that employees and other stakeholders are working toward common goals, establish agreement around intended outcomes, and adjust the department's directions in response to a changing environment. Today's workshops will begin with a presentation by MSTU Assessment, followed by Utilities, Facilities Management, and Tourist Development. With that, we'll bring up Sean Hubbock, MSTU Assessment Director.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hubbock.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sean Hubbock, MS2 Assessment Director, here to present our 2019 and through 2023 strategic plan. Our summary is what we're have the introduction of our department. We're going to discuss who we are, our vision, mission, and goals, who we serve, strategic objectives, our SWOT analysis, and then our current situation and implementation plan. First, I'd like to start off reflecting our teams across Marion County. Up in the top left-hand side, we have our Marion Oaks Recreation Team, led by David, and he has some recreation staff as general services maintenance staff. On the top-hand right, we have our Marion Oaks General Services, led by Sherry Sloan, and they maintain the right-of-ways out in Marion Oaks. In the center is our main office. We call it the administration office, but also that's not just administration, but we oversee all of our road overlay, reclaim, and new construction programs out of this main office. Bottom right-hand side, we have our Silver Spring Shores Recreation, led by Danny Smith and his team, as well as he has recreation staff, as well as maintenance, general maintenance for the facility. And on the bottom left is our Rainbow Lakes Estates team. They're A to Z. They cover recreation, maintenance of all the facilities, maintenance of the roadways. They're kind of like a mini city in many ways, and a lot of responsibility and services they provide to the residents there. I'm going to go over our vision real quick, and our vision is enhancing residents' quality of life through customer service by providing municipal services that are not readily available through general taxes. Our mission is to continue to offer new programs and services at our MSTU community centers where existing recreation facilities are located to benefit everyone from our younger generation to our aging members, and continue our efforts in our MSBU projects that improves the residents' quality of life for municipal services, as well as assessments for construction, resurfacing, and maintenance of roadways. And our goals is this successful implementation to enhance the quality of life for all of our communities and residents located in those communities, and creation of new programs and municipal services. Who we serve, we have citizens, advisory board members, businesses, and visitors of Marion County. We have our internal customers and then our internal agencies. And I'm going to go into one of our first objective is updating our policies and procedures throughout all of our MSTUs. Better use of our technological resources, such as working with IT and generating like maps of our MSBUs, but we're also have done GPS locations of all of our street lighting programs and lights. And one of the biggest things that's really been beneficial is we hold quarterly meetings with the managers, and that from all the different locations. And we're able to bounce off different ideas, what's worked out well, that helps with mentoring for some other management team members, and it's going very good. Our objective 2 is looking at the fees being consistent in the facility usage and rentals, and try to standardize the programs within each of the MSTU, as well as always continue to develop new programs. Our third objective is to continue to promote new projects, assessment projects throughout the county, and also revisit our previous projects that had not passed either through petition or may have made it to the board and did not pass at that time. And we do have a video link that's just listed here that we did in working with IT last year. It's about an 18-minute video talking about all of our assessment processes. Starting on our SWOT analysis, our strengths, we have many, but we feel we have a teamwork with family atmosphere. We've got very dedicated staff, and obviously enhancing the quality of life for our residents within the MSTU communities. Weaknesses is our funding levels. Opportunities, we feel there's many, but we can definitely increase the revenue from our rentals of our facilities, and we're just continue working on that. There's just a lot of opportunity. Marion Oaks has been huge. They're backed up for rentals. with the Shores second, and then kind of really starting up in Rainbow Lakes Estates, really strong this past year. The threats that we have is either capped millage or capped rates, and that is the nature, unfortunately, of some of the MSPU fundings, especially some that's been in existence for some time. So I'm gonna go right into our current situation and implementation plan. As you can see up there, that was, we were the Department of the Month. We had a nice collage of many different activities from all the different community centers and our road projects. And our team obviously does consist of the teams I previously mentioned. One of the things that's kind of maybe not well known, but we actually manage over 45 budgets in MSPU. We have 11 mowing budgets, 21 street lights communities, and our large MSTUs are about 10 of the funds, and then we have 10 other general funds. Could be maintenance of the roadways and or potential with the future of putting some pavement down. We have been averaging at least 25 to 35 miles a year of resurfacing projects. It's kind of a quiet little thing that happens, but it's nice to hear from those communities, even out in the Shores where we're just doing the feedback.
Sean, it's less than quiet.
No. So we are in one of our challenges, we're looking at having a need for adding an inspector's position this next proposed budget, with a proposed impact of about $44,000 for that position. And I have some photos of some of our annual overlay programs that I was talking about. We have the Marion Oaks that was done this past year, before and after photos. And we're spending about $1 million a year. We're collecting the revenues and being able to put down about $1 million of new surfacing projects. Silver Spring Shores is very similar to Marion Oaks on the revenue side and expenditures. Rainbow Lakes Estates, it takes about 2 years to accomplish that $1 million. The Rainbow Lakes Estates photo showed where we widened before we overlaid that specific road. Some of our road assessments that was in front of you all last year. We have Shady Hills Estates, which was all new construction, dirt road. We had issues that we kept looking at, if y'all recall, with flooding issues and potential floodplain. And I'm happy to report it's holding up very well and dealing with the concerns of flooding. And then McAteer Acres is a subdivision we did, and
Mr. Habit.
yes, ma'am.
Going back to that one, I mean, because the flooding for some of the residents was a really big issue, and because we've had such a considerable amount of rain, were we able to alleviate some of the problems they were having?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And McAteer Acres was a reclaiming project. There was some drainage comments by some of the citizens that would have been actually, if you just went down to the first road to the left, we were able to work with Office of the County Engineer Tracy's team upstream, do some excavation of swales during our project. And then when we got down to the houses that were concerns, we were able to help alleviate the flooding, water going into their folks' garage. So I'm going to highlight and discuss Marion Oaks. Obviously, we're always continuing to enhancing existing services for the community. We are looking, this year, David is starting to create some sporting activities and potentially have a need for 2 on-call positions. And these on-call positions aren't, it's not like a lot of times on-call is employees that are on call after hours. These are just employees that would be available if we needed assistance. And we'll be working with HR, looking at the pay grades at the recreation staffing. We do have a proposed increase of a millage in 2021 from 1.02 to 1.53 mils, and we'll monitor that. If we can push it out another year, we will. This all comes from projections in working with Michael Tomich and also with our chairman of the advisory board. General Services is doing very well. They maintain approximately 360 miles of right-of-way, and of course the waterfall and the entrance is says enough. I'm looking at the picture. There's always so much comments about that. The pay grades was adjusted this past year. In 2021, there is a potential of a $5 proposed increase from $30 to $35, and our cap for that particular fund is $50 per parcel. We get to Rainbow Lakes Estates. We maintain approximately 175 miles of right-of-way and roadway. We are really pushing to really enhance the services for the young generation out there by making some improvements to the youth center and adding some facilities and capital. We do propose a potential increase in the millage from 0.47 to 0.72 in the general services, and potentially 2.25 to 3 in 2022/2023. We are looking out at that last year of potentially having a need to add 3 employees. Silver Spring Shores is very unique as well. We are already capped at the 3 mills, but Danny out there and his team are obviously continuing to enhance the existing programs. Our biggest item that we need to be addressing is updating our ADA facility in compliance, the bathrooms and the sidewalks. And I've been talking with Cheryl and seeking potentially $100,000 as a CDBG to go towards the renovation, with a projection of around $200,000. So we could potentially propose splitting the cost.
Yes.
Quick question, on Silver Spring Shores MSTU, is that pickleball or tennis courts?
That is our pickleball court, and it's getting highly used.
Yeah.
It was old shuffleball courts. Well, you can kind of see in the picture on to the right-hand side, that was an existing with benches underneath it and some old ceiling fans where people could sit down and rest, and it's at both ends. And I don't live too far from here, and I hear them hooping and hollering in the early evenings, and it's going well. It's phenomenal. We've had pickleball at our basketball court for several years, so we're still going to continuing that. If we start doing events, we have multiple locations. With that being said, that is my presentation for the MST Assessment Department. Any questions you may have, I'd be happy to answer for you.
Board, do you have any? I have a question for you, Sean. How did you arrive at your vision statement?
Well, let me get back to the slide real quick. We had looked at some previous vision statements and mission statements from the department. We started kind of with that and just working with staff internally and listening to some of what the advisory board members are saying. And we also looked at what our main mission is, or vision here for the rest of the county. But the main focus is obviously enhancing people's quality of life. That is the key thing. And we're already doing that, but we want to continue doing it, and we want to make it that much better than what's existing today.
Very good. So you used the mission statement.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else have any question? Okay.
I got a couple.
Yes, Commissioner.
So I like that we want to keep the fees consistent and standardize the programs. But as you brainstorm with your team, I mean, what are the MSTU process, has a lot of flexibility in it. So what are the trends and things that you're seeing? What are you trying to go after? Mm-hmm. Strategically, what makes the most sense this year to tackle? Okay, so obviously, when you get to the locations, the facilities are going to be a little different because some of the facilities may have a really nice
commercial kitchen, the other one may not. But we are looking at like hall rentals throughout the community, so we can make sure that we're being competitive in the pricing for the local market.
And from a customer service perspective, what are you gonna do differently this year than you have in the past?
We're just continually marketing and letting the public know that we have these available. Rainbow Lakes Estates is a good example because they haven't really been doing that for many years. So we have had increased our rentals this past year, but we still have a long way to go. We have our Facebook that we use. We use our websites as notifications. We have postings inside the community centers. A lot of it does come through feedback from other residents who had used the facilities too. So just making sure that we're always giving good
I know you were working on a video last year. Did you get that finished?
Yes, we did.
Okay, good. I need to go back and look at it. Is that making it easier for people to understand the process?
Oh,
one
yes.
One of the questions I always get is, what do you mean MS? What is that? How does it work?
Right.
That is specifically on the assessment process. I think the video you did, right?
Yeah.
It's generally on the assessment.
It
We
was.
do touch at the end on the MSTUs and BUs. I mean, it's very similar. But we get a lot of feedback from the folks that watched the video, saying how well it explains the process and what's available out there. So it's, I think we've probably shared that video about 120 times in the last 8 months or so. Obviously, with all the heavy rains and a lot of the dirt roads, that's where a lot of the calls are coming from, that we've sent the videos. But once again, it's just we get very positive feedback, which is what we're hoping that we would hear. And instead of we got our pamphlets that we can hand out too, but the videos, we refer them to the video, definitely.
His priority this year from the assessment side is to work with those old subdivisions that they need the roads fixed, to convince them.
So I've got a different way that we should go about that. I think we should put in a pavement minimum level. So if that thing starts failing, over 90% or 95% or 80, whatever the right number is based on our staff's recommendation, if they have not chosen at that point to do it, because most of them, right around, I think 60 to 70% end up fixing it. But I think once it gets to a max level and it becomes so expensive for us to repair and do these big patches, that unless it's a special circumstance, which we can always bring back to the board, that it should automatically just be thrown into the pot and paved, and the assessment incurred.
We do utilize the PCI mapping that's
Yes.
Managed by the Office of the County Engineer. We do have some locations that are not county maintained, so they're not going in and doing PCI
But
indexing.
there are some subdivisions that are so bad, we're going out and doing large patches.
We're patching the patches.
We're patching the batches, and the problem is that you got a few people, and a lot of these things at that point are only missing by a couple percent that we've seen. Like the one behind baseline, was Pepper Mill back there? That's a great example of the fact that now we just keep going back in there and doing bigger and bigger and bigger patches, and stuff like that. And then, and people are constantly complaining that it's not being taken care of, and we're too scared to pull the trigger, quite frankly, because they haven't gotten 50% on a ballot. But there should be some max level that people reach in a subdivision, and it just gets paid because it's costing us tons of money. And quite frankly, bad customer service because we haven't done it. So, I mean, there is a certain point at which the roads failed, I think, and we should go back in there and pave it. Now, there are some special circumstances where we may decide to do something different or chip in differently, because there are some subdivisions that are bad. I have one of them that's up in that off 326 area. It's large lots, huge lots, and to pave it, I mean, it was like $20,000-$30,000 a unit. So maybe there is, once it bridges that and goes past $7,000 a house, it automatically comes back to the board just for review. But there's got to be a principle and a way that we can put in place the right procedures. This way, at a certain point of failure, it doesn't even come back to the board. We
They
put the
just do
policy
it.
in place and it goes and gets done.
I think even if you put that policy in place, all of them needs to come back to the board.
Well, that's what you
Because it will
think.
be a public hearing. You have to do the assessment through
You
a
have to
public
do it
hearing.
through a public
Yeah.
hearing.
And you have to adopt an ordinance and a resolution.
So
That's fine.
we had asked at our strategic planning session to get some breakdown on the cost that we're spending now. I don't know if you're prepared to address that today?
Commissioner
Has to be done
Stone,
for each one, or we
yes
can't
ma'am,
just
Tracy
pass an
Straub, County
ordinance
Engineer for the record.
One time it says at this level, it gets done.
I do have some bits and pieces of information to share with
We
y'all.
need one for each one
Okay.
of these districts.
Okay.
Well, we'll take time to take a look at it. And again, as a reminder, we had asked that the county engineer take a look to see what some of those breakdowns were, so that would give us some direction when we got to the point of talking about this. So I appreciate you bringing that up very much, Commissioner Zalek.
Yeah, and I just think what we should do is at least look at a plan that administration puts together. You know, we may not want to do it at the end by the time it comes back to us, but I think we've got so many of these that are in that process that end up, you know, I mean, there's I think it's Ocala Oaks over there too. It's a mess. It's end up, I mean, it's a middle class neighborhood, a lot of rentals, a lot of the landlords just keep voting no. Right? They just don't care. You know, so I mean, at a certain point, it just we've got to I think
A
we've got to
level of
have we've
service.
got to have a floor that these roads can't go past. Right? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I just.
Well,
yeah,
this
'cause
was
it's
the
tough,
point
though.
of
It's a tough decision.
asking
Well,
for some of
But
this.
are we still gonna have a public hearing on it?
Yeah, and the problem, I mean, some of the problem with some of it is when the cost
Oh yeah.
outweighs
The value.
the
I get it.
value of the property.
But then let's go
and-
back to a dirt road though and maintain it like that.
I'm fine with that, but I mean, I think we also have to be careful not to assess properties that, quite frankly, they're not ever gonna get their money's worth out of that assessment. And you might also run into situations where the property owner isn't gonna have the funds to pay that assessment.
Yeah.
And then what are we gonna do?
Well, here's the problem with
Should-
that though, is that they're getting a over and abundant service above and beyond the maintenance. So we should at least bill them for that, or we need to figure it out, because then guys gonna come over here and say, well, you know, just go ahead and leave those potholes. Somebody gets hurt, an accident, somebody's walking, whatever it is, and then we become liable for personal human safety. So,
You know, Commissioner, those
Right?
roads in those type of subdivision, probably the expected life should be 20 years plus.
Yeah.
I wonder if we should look at how we doing our assessment now, and we do it for only 10 years. Maybe in those
Take
high
about 20
costs,
years.
do it for a longer period of time. It will cost a little bit more money, but maybe it will become affordable.
we've asked that question before though, Munir, why do they say no?
I don't know.
They've told us no.
Who
I
told
mean,
us
I've asked
no?
that, our bond counsel, I believe.
Yeah.
Chris
'cause
Schraber.
Yeah, we couldn't do.
I know I've asked that question before. Why can't we make it for 30 years or 20 years?
Allow me to explore it again with
Absolutely,
them.
yeah.
And check on that.
Or can we just pull a bigger bond that's actually a county bond that we go under and execute on a bigger basis, that we just have a bond or credit line for those that we can extend and finance it differently than what we're doing today?
Let-
Why can't you look at 2 or 3 different ways to finance
Right.
it?
We will. Okay.
Let's look
good.
at that then.
I think that's a good,
Yeah, where we just do so many amounts per year.
So do we need to cover these costs, this
If she
cost
brings us back the
breakdown?
Project list of over roads,
Can
and
I,
it could be big enough.
can I
we
share
just
with you
bond
what
it.
I've got in front of me?
Yeah, please do. Ms. Straub's gonna go over with what she's put together for us.
So, at the strategic workshop last week, you all asked a handful of questions, and my staff was able to pull together a variety of information from resources, Sean's office, my office. It's still work in progress. It's still being scrubbed, but it gave some clear indications right from the beginning. So one of the sheets that you have has OCE road maintenance pothole patching on the left and grading on the right. And these numbers are purely from our work order system. We're pretty comfortable with these numbers. This is what it costs us to do business. And you can see the breakdown in the road types. I told y'all we focus on our major road network, and then we have the subdivision road network. So your arterial collectors versus your subdivisions, we're spending about the same amount of money. As mileage goes, I gave you the mileage up above that we track and report on. We have close to equal, 1,200 miles versus 1,300 miles between the subdivision and the major road network, and we're spending about the same type of money on the pothole patching. Now, what's interesting is when you look at your grading cost, there's 391 miles of roads that we grade, and you can see how we're pushing on the grading, the amount of money that goes on those small miles of road. And the reason why I separated out, there's a total cost there, but there's an equipment and labor, because total cost of grading is made up of our equipment and our labor, and then our materials. And so as we talk about where your cost savings, if you're not grading that road, your cost savings are in materials, because your manpower, your equipment moves to something else. So it's the material costs that drop, that we put on those roads. We often grade and we don't ever add materials, but frequently we have to add materials. So that's the one sheet. The second sheet, this is a lot of data that has to come together in a number of ways, and it still needs quite a bit of scrubbing. So what we told you are the number of publicly platted subdivisions. So remember, there's a lot of private subdivisions out there. These are what we quickly were able to pull out as our number of publicly platted subdivisions in the county's jurisdiction, in the unincorporated portion of the county. Now, your road mileage doesn't match to your previous sheets, and the reason why that's the case is because while we have subdivisions, we also have non-subdivision roads, how we've classified them as a higher category that cuts through a subdivision. One example is Southeast 64th Avenue Road in Silver Spring Shores. That collects, a lot of folks come down that road, so while it's inside a subdivision, it skews your mileage without us going through and hand doing calculations. It's not a subdivision mile road. Your Marion Oaks Boulevard, not a subdivision mile road. So on this report, it's showing up as a road in the subdivision, but on our actual tracking, when we apply resources and such, it's not a subdivision mile road.
By the way, did you get my email on the white striping for 64?
I did. We actually,
Thank you.
I owe you an answer, but it's actually in some programming this year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The second section down there below is what we have for subdivisions with MSTU assessments. So Sean's office keeps a very good list of where they've been. Now, what we can't decipher completely from this, we're still doing handwork on this. There's several examples of subdivisions that MSTU has gone into, and maybe there were 20 roads in there, and they paved 5. Maybe there was 20 miles, and they paved 5 miles. So we don't have that completely broken out because of the way that you're putting lists together with map data, and so you have to do quite a bit of hand exercises. But it gives us ballparks. It gives us ideas of what we've done, where we've been, what we still have to accomplish in front of us.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, yes.
So can we figure out from this list what's, 80% and worse, or 85% and worse, something like that, of all the subdivision roads on your scale? Can we go get eyes on that? And then could we probably build a list for this, for like this calendar year, plus everything else we have, and put that all in one package, like, so that we have 10 or 20 plus subdivisions that could be done in one package this year that could all be bonded at a longer rate. This way we could get the best possible financing and rate to the customer.
So speaking to...
So instead of just packaging 5 or 6 jobs or 3 or 4 subdivisions, you know what I mean? We package 10 or 20.
Speaking to which subdivisions need attention, which had that
Yeah,
failure
so
rate.
if it's 85,
That
I don't know.
I can tell you that for the ones that we have accepted and maintained.
Right,
So
right. I'm
But
not
they're the
talking
only
about,
ones
I'm
that-
talking about ones that you're patching today.
yes,
Right.
yes.
I'm not talking about stuff that we may see in the future. I don't know that we can do anything about that.
Well, but
Those are
part of the
private.
strategic plan.
No, those would be the public
Future.
paved road that we have not accepted yet. And
Right.
those are a separate category.
Yeah, I don't know that
have
we
to
can
deal
get
with.
into that. I'm worried,
No, we can't.
where I think we have
can't do that.
liability from a safety perspective is on those that we maintain.
That's correct.
And that then we don't go back in and repave and reassess. That's where our liability really is. And I don't know what the number needs to be. It depends on what you bring us back. I don't know if 85 is the right number, 95 is the right, where's the right failure number that it automatically becomes a
We-
floor.
we
But I think
already-
you bring us back that information.
We have that, we can provide that.
In the pavement management system we have a grade.
Is that something that you did?
Oh, what Tracy did, on the curve where the roads start failing and where it needs attention. I mean, we have all that information.
We have the make
Yeah, I
and
know,
break
but start
points, and-
failing in the engineer's perspective and what the people see as failure is
No,
Two
it's-
different things.
two different things. But
you'll like it when you see it.
of course I will. I'm sure you did it.
Anyone else have any comments? So, you're gonna put together that 80 to 85% of the worst roads that we have already
Is that the right
accepted.
number?
And what that packaging may look like, should we choose to take it out for a longer-term bonding.
We hired
I'm
you for.
gonna, I'm
It's in
gonna
the 60s.
let Sean
Right,
work
it's
on
in the
that
60s.
long-term,
Serious,
but
yeah.
I'll put together the road list, the mileage, all of that.
For Mr. Hubbock. And Mr. Boynes, you'll take a look at putting and compiling that information with the request that you've heard today, and what kind of policy and procedures we could use to address that.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Boyanis, I don't know if y'all board heard this, but he said the number is not in the 80, 85 range, it's in the 60s.
The pavement condition indexed will be on the curve in the area of 60, probably 60, 65. That's when the roads start failing. And I'll show you pictures. What
That-
does
So-
that mean?
So, yeah, and maybe we just need a little more education on that. Part of the problem with that, though, is by the time we typically get to an assessment, what's the pavement number?
Today?
So no,
I
I'm
think-
saying,
I think
so
what you're asking-
normally, by the
Failure.
time people are willing to spend the money to come in here to pass it by 51%, what is the typical pavement index number?
Well, no, I don't know that but I think what you're asking is, by the time we've made the decision, but we still go through the process, the pavement has continued to fail terribly. I think what I'll be able to do for y'all very, very easily, all of our local roads have been, they have that pavement condition index ranking on them. I
How
think
long
you're
have they
gonna,
had that for?
we've been doing that for 10 years, at least.
So can you give us the
Every other
ones
year.
that we have,
God bless you.
where people have voted to have them done, that Sean's done, what has been the level that they've
Yep.
actually came to us and got it done at?
We can do that. And then I
Right?
think
That's the number I'm thinking about.
That's okay.
we'll give you that overall list of subdivisions, and I think you'll just see it's gonna start from the bottom of just horrendous numbers down in your 20s and 30s, and there'll be so many roads that you have to get through before you even get to working on roads in the 60s. You'll have to make those decisions. Where do you want to put that effort at it? There's so many of these that
You
need
want
that
to start with
attention.
the worst one, or
Yeah, or do you want to start at the 60 and try to
I
grab
want
all
to
of them?
find, I don't know what I think we just need once that information starts coming back, then we can go and start getting on the road and looking at some of these subdivisions, and I think once we do that, talking to some of the people, I think we can get a good feel for it, start having some public hearings. We'll know, and there may be a couple of them we don't do, but I think what we're looking for is I think there's enough of them out there, the years that I've been on the board, that have to be done, that have not gotten done and we should have done, but based on our voting system, we haven't done them, that we can probably put together a pretty big package and get people a really good rate.
Okay. I think that was great discussion, and Mr. Hubbock.
Our construction
Yes,
prices
I
are
just would
too
like to add, we
significantly
have a
high.
very large list
The bond price
since
of the
I've,
construction
for the
price of
past 3 years
altogether.
of projects that we've inspected through citizens calling in but did not move forward, which would probably match a lot of the same lists with Tracy. So I will continue to work with Tracy in developing of those project areas.
So what timeline could we expect to see something come back, to have some conversation?
the first meeting in March?
Okay. Okay, so we'll look for something by the first meeting in March.
And I think it will be beneficial, Commissioner, when we bring all this information back, maybe we should do a pavement management workshop and go over all the details.
Great, great. Okay, let's get that on the calendar then. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Sean.
Tracy is frowning.
Okay, shall I carry on?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. So next, we'll bring to the podium the Utilities Department with Mr. Jody Kirkman, our new Environmental Services Director, and Mr. Bob Tetherington, Utilities Engineering Manager. Welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Madam Chair, Commissioners,
Again, for the record, Jody Kirkman, Environmental Services Director. I'm pleased to present the Utilities Strategic Plan with the support of Bob Tintertington. Again, I've only been here for a few days, so I'm looking for Bob to just give me a little support on this. So, but I'm here to help answer questions the best I may.
Buddy, you're supposed to be good on your feet, man. Don't apologize already.
I'm trying my best, thank you.
Go Bulls. I like this guy. He's from USF.
Oh, that's a strike against him.
Oh.
We didn't know that before we hired.
You didn't know that?
Oh.
That's all right. UCF's not talking any trash anymore, are they?
All right, are we ready?
Watch out for the orange
are
and
ready.
blue.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, as everybody knows, the Marion County Utilities, we are an enterprise fund. We were established in 1993, which a lot of people do not know that and didn't realize that. Currently have 99 employees. We have 4 divisions with business, operations, maintenance, and engineering and construction. And we currently have 32,250 water customers, 21,220 wastewater customers. And when we talk about 1993, a lot of people don't realize that we are a young utility. A lot of utilities have been established over long periods of time, especially a government agency. But back in 1993, when we became a utility, we took over the old general development system. We had 3,473 accounts, 12 employees. We currently have 32,873 accounts and 99 employees. I don't know what the actual miles of pipe were back in 1993, but it was probably maybe somewhere around 100. But we currently have over 650 miles of water line, 123 miles of sewer line, and about 14 miles of reclaimed water lines. But with those years, from the small system to the large system, we've been very successful. And over the years, we've actually received recognitions and awards. 2015, we received the People's Choice Best Tasting Water by AWWA, which is pretty good. And then with our operations and maintenance of our system, we received management awards for our facilities. Our vision is to establish Marion County Utilities as a prominent supplier of water and wastewater throughout the county by upgrading our existing system through the use of automation, new technology, natural resources, and improving infrastructure. One of the things when we look at our vision, we actually have inherited most all of our utility systems, whether it's by acquisition or by acquired from either abandonment and given to the county to operate and maintain. They're developer constructed type systems, and we now take on the responsibility of not only maintaining those, but also building for the future. Our mission, the overall mission of Marion County Utilities, is to provide superior customer service while protecting public health, safety, and the environment. We're going to continue developing our sustainable resources, planning for future capacity, and meeting future county needs and our customers' needs. Our goals: ensure safe and reliable operations and maintenance of all Marion County facilities. We want to meet or exceed the permitted treatment regulations. As you know, we are highly permitted, and whether it's the Florida Department of Environmental Protection or water management districts, we have a lot of permit requirements that we have to maintain, not only for meeting the permit requirements, but also to maintain our facilities in a safe manner for the environment, whether it be drinking water or disposal through our effluent. We're going to ensure that we have adequate capacity for our present and future customers, and also safe and effective use of reclaimed water and biosolids residuals. Once we process our the wastewater, we have to dispose of it in a safe and efficient manner, and for the best for everybody. And as we always know, we have new development that continually comes and grows. And so we will, through the engineering and construction supervision, and we want to ensure compliance with our land development codes. We've worked very hard over the past years of increasing the standards of our systems from the old private systems to what we would consider to be a municipal system. We're here for the long term. We're here, as I always give my speech of government, we're here forever. We may not be here physically, but Marion County and Marion County Utilities will be here 99 years or 100 years from now. And then, of course, we want to develop and implement and execute the 5-year capital improvement program. When we program projects out, we need to get them constructed and get that infrastructure in place. Through the SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, we have several on the list, but a few of them that I wanted to just point out. Our strengths, financially secure. We've had award-winning performance, and we have great groundwater quality. We are blessed with good quality water that requires very little treatment to provide drinking water. Opportunities, well, let me go to weaknesses first. Weaknesses, the big problem we have is everyone knows we are the 5th largest county in the state. We have utility systems that are we're not condensed, working from the middle out. We are in little hodgepodges all over the county, which is definitely a process that we have to go through whenever we go to regionalization and trying to make all those systems work. And then the aging of the infrastructure, and not only the aging, but the quality of that infrastructure when it was constructed. When developers construct, typically they try to be as efficient and cost-effective as they can be. So a lot of times they may not put in the highest quality piping and systems, especially as standards change and pipes, networks, or pipe material and process improve over the years. Opportunities.
Excuse me, Mr. Hetherington. Yes,
Just
Commissioner Moore.
real quick, because we helped you with some of your lines, to actually three different lots I know of. But anyway,
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, we paid for it because we were putting up houses. But like I know when we put in, the stuff we put in was better than what we connected to. You know, you mentioned about quality difference, that whoever had been prior to us didn't put in the same quality, because we put in like, hey, if I was living here, what do I want in front of my house? Unfortunately, some of the stuff that we connected to didn't appear to be the same quality that we purchased, you know, so even that, where each one has been having to do it, as each different company's done it, there's not been I don't think there's same level of standards, even between, developers or between different companies or different people that are putting in water lines right now. So that's where I've talked with Angel, and he's got some ideas that I'm sure you'll get to, but we need to address that difference in standards.
Sure, absolutely. Under the opportunities, of course, grant funding is always opportunity. Funding is always a major issue in anything that we do. Alternative water supply, as everybody knows, that the concerns with the consumption and the uptake of water out of the upper aquifer, and we're always looking for alternative sources of fresh water. And one of those is the lower Florida aquifer that's being researched, and hopefully that we're working on getting a well put in place. The availability assessment, which helps us with the expansion of our facilities throughout the county, and of course, acquisition of other utility systems. There are private utility systems that are out there that may in the future be strategic locations that eventually, whether we actually pursue those, someday we will own them. It's just a matter of when. And then, of course, the threats we have, of course, is our springs water quality, not only from the drinking side, but also from the discharge side of our effluent and water quality. And of course, the economy. If the economy doesn't grow, then our systems will grow much slower because development basically slows down. So our strategic objective number 1 is to increase automation and the use of new technology. We're in the process of implementing the Tyler system, Munis system, customer information system, which will improve efficiency and operations for our customers and provide a better service.
What does Nancy say? Is she okay with it?
Yes.
All right, that's more good. I'll make sure.
And then we're going to implement
in charge,
the customer call service, which you know how things go when people call in for information or direction. It needs to go to the right person and get the answers as quickly and as efficient as possible. So that will help with the improved customer service call center. And then implementation of the financial and operational dashboards. And what that does is it provides us with real-time information about our facilities, whether it be the operations of our wastewater plants or at least our pump stations and water system water plants, provide real-time data that will help us in management and operations. And another thing is the installation of payment kiosks. Again, as I mentioned how big the county is, you know, we have people on the other side of the county, and for convenience of access to us, maybe have a payment kiosk on the other side of the county that'll assist with billing. Implementation of AMI technology. We currently have AMR, which automatic meter reading, and the automatic infrastructure that we put in for the AMI is a series of actually towers, would be similar to more like a cell tower, but it provides real-time information of we can read a meter at any time, and we can read it from the office. Right now with AMR, we have to go out in the field. It does an automatic read, but we have to drive through the neighborhood in order to get those readings. So again, there's another efficiency operation that will help not only from our side, but also from the customer side. If there are issues and problems with their meters, then we can detect that much quicker and easier.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So are you talking about replacing the AMR system with AMI?
In some places, it makes sense to do that, and we are proceeding in that direction.
Because our AMR system is not that old, is it?
I don't know exactly when it was put in, but I mean,
It's
it's
I can,
5+ years, I think.
if
Yeah.
I may, Commissioners, Angel Rosell, I can provide a little bit more information on that. There's a replacement program, it's about 10 years, and that's what we're doing. So we have meters anywhere in the age of 1 to 10 years old. The units themselves are capable of being AMR or AMI. So they are capable of having a drive-by, which is what we do today. AMI would be having some sort of antenna system that will be able to read those meters without having to drive by. So you have real-time data. It's something that's being evaluated to see in which areas it makes financial sense to put up those towers or co-locate on towers that are existing.
Well,
But it's something that we are looking at and doing a pilot program for.
Right, because
I'm
the
sure
signal
you'll
only goes
do-
so far, right? So you have to bounce it.
right.
And the better that signal gets, the better the
I
better the
just-
cost per unit will be.
I'd like to see
How
a
far is
financial
it?
analysis because I remember approving
And
all of this, and so I just want to know, you know, and I'm sure you're already doing a thorough financial analysis to make sure that it makes sense. So I just would like to see that, please.
I totally agree, and we're going to be looking at that. And to answer your questions, the newer meters actually have a farther range. So,
Right, what's the
so I don't know the answer to that question right now. We'll certainly find that out for you. But in that range of 10 years old meters, the older ones don't have that farther range. So we would have to concentrate on an area that's higher density. It makes sense for us to not be driving by, but have that pilot program, if you will, that makes sense to do it, and then we'll do it that way. But years ago, as Commissioner Bryan mentioned, we needed a lot of towers to be able to cover the county, so it did not make sense for the county to be doing
Right.
this type of program.
And with the increased automation with our SCADA and PLCs on our treatment facilities, we currently have 11. We're going to try to increase that to at least 30 out of the 45. And some of those probably not necessary to have in their locations. It doesn't make sense to put it on every single one.
Mr. Tetherington,
Yes.
do we accept online payments now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Strategic objective number 2 is improve the integrity of utility system infrastructure. As I had mentioned, that you know, a lot of it was inherited type systems or older systems that we are maintaining and continue to maintain. And tasked to meet the objective is we want to reduce the number of leaks, breaks, you know, 30% or less of the current customers, and keep the areas that we are mapping to identify those areas. And with the mapping, then it'll identify areas that we may need to do more than just being reactive to going and fixing leaks. We may need to go in and replace lines. So that'll be part of that process of trying to reduce the number of leaks. Reduce water loss less than 10% for system-wide. We are continually, you know, as everybody knows, we have leaks, and we are trying to maintain and control those as much as we possibly can, and be proactive in trying to find leaks if we are experiencing high water loss.
What is the rate today, Bob? What are you leaking at today?
About 11.1%. That's why the goal is to get back underneath 10%.
How many gallons is that? What is that? What does that equate to?
I don't have the number off the top of my head. I don't want to just throw one out.
It's a lot. Right?
We produce about 10 to 11 million gallons a day. So that gives you 11% of that would be
1.1
about 1
million a day.
million gallons a day.
Wow. That's a lot of water.
And what's the lifeline, or what's the lifespan of the lines that we run?
Well,
They gotta be 20.
you know, well, we always think, especially it depends on the type of material, depends on the location where it's at, soil conditions and so forth. But, you know, we always anticipate like a 50-year life at least. But there are facilities that are out there that have been in the ground a lot longer than that.
And Ellen's got wood pipes that are still in the ground in the middle.
Which-
Over 100-something years ago.
Which
Yep.
they got a grant from the state to get those replaced. And I'm just thinking, do we know and do we have a proactive plan to address ours?
We're always looking, one, to improve the operations of our system and the integrity of our system. And anytime there are grants available, then we are going after grants, whether it's operations maintenance or even, you know, the expansion or retrofit to meet any current, you know, regulations or just improve our systems over time.
I just would hate to us ever get to the point that Dunelland's citizens had with their water, that they were getting particles in their water. It just couldn't filter it out because it was so old. Do we have any of those types of pipes? Yeah.
Not to step over Bob's, but the states are, I mean, we get certain kinds of grants to take off, you know, nutrient load and those kind of things. But I think it's a far step for us to get the same. I mean, those guys are getting grants for pipes and stuff like that we're never going to get because they just don't offer them to our size.
So we need to have a plan, though, for our citizens.
And they're fiscally constrained.
Right, very.
Technically, so the state does a lot more for some of those processes, right? I mean, as far as I knew, that's why they got it.
If I may, I wanted to add a little bit more information to this too. We do have in our capital improvement program, we are always looking at areas that are hotspots, if you will, in our system where we have a lot of leaks going on, and we look at replacing service lines in those areas proactively. And where we have pipe failures, we've seen a lot of pipe failures, then it's included in our capital improvement program to go into those areas and replace those lines. So we're actively looking at that. We're actively looking for these leaks to see where we need to focus our capital program too.
And quite frankly, some of the new fittings are much better than some of those old ones.
Yes.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, when we went and took a tour of there's a huge difference in, wasn't that made by the Israeli company?
Right. Strauss.
Oh, the local
Yeah,
company.
them, and then there was another one, both of them they showed me, much better than what we were using before. I don't even know how they did some of that.
Yeah, it's a good question how they did some of that.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you can't really get underneath there and tighten up all those pieces, you're gonna have leaks, right? I mean,
Right.
but the new clamps seem like they're much better.
Right. Improvement in technology and of course materials too. definitely help with it, with all of that. One of the things that when we're talking to meet these objectives too is regionalization of the water and wastewater facilities. As I mentioned before, if you only use even the city of Ocala as the example, they basically expanded out. We actually were around the donut, they're the center, and we went from one spot and now we're county-wide. So when you look at that county-wide and the systems that we inherited as part of the master planning and continued updating of master plans, regionalization of water and wastewater facilities, whether we intertie these systems together when it makes sense for redundancy and for operations efficiencies. So of course we have master plans that we are currently developing and revising, looking at more and more as the systems start connecting together and the expansion of capabilities with that. And through that, we always are updating our water models. When we're planning out for new systems and new line extensions, if you don't have water models, you can make a guess and probably make a reasonable guess, but with water models, we can project lines out and put in proper sizing lines for the areas for future growth and for the future development. And to reduce I&I, inflow infiltration into our wastewater systems, is mentioning the older systems, whether they get cracks or the seals or leaks. Water leaks into those systems, and then it goes into our wastewater facilities, and then we end up treating that water. We have currently about 9% per year, and we're working to try to reduce that to hopefully to 7%. And again, the areas that we have, some areas that we have identified, we're mapping those areas. And whenever I say, how do we know, it's all underground, but most of these gravity systems will run to pump stations. And with our automated system where we can review the operating run times of the pump stations, when they typically run maybe 2-3 hours a day, when we receive a lot high rainfall, whether it's maybe 10 inches in a day, then they may run 2 to 3 times longer than that, which indicates that there is inflow and infiltration coming from stormwater, not necessarily from the sewer. And so we're working to reduce that. And we currently have in the CIP, we're doing some rehabilitation on some areas with manholes. And we've identified some lines that we're actually in the process of going to slip line those to decrease the inflow, which not only keeps water out of the system, but that water runs through the system, goes to our plants, and then we end up treating it. So the reduction in that stormwater increases the efficiency of the treatment, and then it reduces that water has to be treated. And strategic objective 3 is better utilization of our natural resources. We're always looking to increase the use of reclaimed water, whether it's for golf courses or for any type of irrigation. We offset, if they're not using reuse water, they're using groundwater more than likely, which is being pumped out of the ground. So part of that natural resource, we want to utilize as much reclaimed water as we can to offset that pumping of the fresh water through the wells. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we want to increase the use of alternative water supply sources. Eventually, there will be a limited amount of water, and we are seeking out and ahead of the curve. We're not waiting until we have a problem and that it's hitting us, and we have to do something as quickly. There is the research investigation going on. As I mentioned, the Lower Floridan well. We currently are working with one in the south part of the county and working with the Water Management District, and in hopes that as part of the process and that alternative funding source, we're able to obtain some grants to help us to complete that project and to pursue that. And then, of course, the last is decreased nutrient loading on the aquifer in first magnitude springs. whether we're pulling water out or whether water is going in, what goes into the ground ends up into our aquifers and in our springs. And of course, we want to try to treat it to the highest level that is that we are able to do. So with that, the implementation of the strategic objectives, strategic one objective is increase the automation and use of technology. The funding of the SCADA and the PLC improvements, and then a replacement long-term over for the AMI. And then, of course, training and software will help us. Funding is always a key source in all of this. Strategic objective number 2, improve the integrity of our utility system. The funding for the infrastructure improvements and replacements. Again, funding is always number 1. The GIS mapping software and utilization of mapping all of our facilities and having that information readily available of the existing facilities and future.
You keep mentioning the funding on the water availability fee. We're going ahead with that. Do we have a timetable about when that would be implemented? Because that's going to help dramatically on getting that plus the different lines. So
it is definitely going to be a major impact to not only to our system but to the funding source, and we are currently going through that process of establishing that assessment. We have financial consultant working on the availability fee amounts. And we have an attorney on contract also working through the process for the assessment that it'll be placed on. Hopefully, if it goes through and everybody approves it, it'll be on the tax bills this next year.
Okay.
So we will start generating some revenue from that source. And I can say that I've had discussions even outside of Marion County and have asked other areas, what kind of funding they are using in these types of systems. And the availability fee, a lot of them don't even do that. And after talking about it and explaining what we're doing, they go, oh, wow, you know what, that is a good idea. So I have a feeling that we will be on the leading edge of that system being implemented. And I think others will look to us that we were kind of the pioneer in making it happen.
Chair, and
Yes.
real quick, so some of the state statute that they talked about at the Springs Coast committee meeting that I was out the other day, that actually requires someone to hook up within 365 days if the lines are in front of their house. So if we go ahead and do our availability fee and we end up, and just, I'm throwing this out here for you guys to start thinking about and start discussing. If we do the availability fee and we start running lines, are we going to create unintended consequences, forcing people to hook up when they have an existing sewer before that sewer? Because generally what you do is we run the line. If they have an existing sewer, we don't make them hook up until that system fails.
Right.
But that statute that they talked about, or that they referenced the other day, kind of says that you can't do that. So I think we need to look into that. I don't know if you talked to Angel about that or not, or if you're aware
We
of
have talked.
this.
We have talked briefly about it in the past. I mean, that's an ongoing discussion. That it's not new. That to
This
to
is
be
not a
in
new
front.
law, right?
Right.
No, but
it's been there.
I wasn't, quite frankly, as long as I've sat on the board, I wasn't aware that there was a state statute that required them to hook up within 365 days if the line is there.
In sewer, just to
Yeah,
And so
yeah. So, anyway.
So without. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If I may, I believe the statute you're talking about it's actually been there for years. And what it does is actually looks back to the governing body, municipality, whatever the case may be, to implement those connection policies. It's in and around sewer, and it basically establishes the 365 days. I understand that Marion County doesn't have that established yet, and it's something we'll probably have to look into and establish. The state basically puts it back on the local government to implement that.
Okay, so we have the option to not do it. I was under the impression that we didn't have that option.
It's not an option not to do it, I just don't believe it's been established yet within Marion County.
Okay.
It's always been a discussion, a struggle for all the governments to enforce that rule. Every time that I have conversations with different counties or municipalities, it's always a struggle to enforce the rule. The rule is there, but it's always a struggle. And it doesn't define who is responsible for the expenses associated to that hookup. And that's part of the concerns that other counties and municipalities have expressed in the past.
Or and Angel's right. If somebody refuses to do it, you can only lien a property so much. So it's just something that gets attached if that's part of the program. So,
Okay. I just wanted to put it out there for discussion so
Thank
that
you.
everybody was aware of that, because as I said, and maybe I was just having a blonde moment, I don't know. No,
I think we've heard that before.
you've never heard that before? Yeah.
No, not the 365 days.
Have you heard it? Have you heard it?
No, I haven't.
I was looking at Carl, okay. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, and then on strategic objective number 2, the Lucidity software and maintenance programs or management program, so that we can become more efficient, not only in the number of work orders, but making sure that the work is being done and is tracked and the effect of how many work orders have to be done, and so forth. And of course, the ERP software. Strategic objective 3, the better utilization of natural resources.
Yes, excuse me, Commissioner
On the
Allen.
software part of that, is that just a workflow? Is it a workflow process?
The Lucidity is workflow process.
Okay. How does it tie in? Does it tie into Tyler?
It will, we're told that it will.
Who told you?
well, from our negotiation with Tyler, that was a condition, that those two, there will be interface between the two.
And so,
It's part of the project.
okay, and so will that workflow be the same thing we end up replacing in OCE?
No, it's a different workflow in OCE. It's a different asset management software in OCE.
Why?
Be-
I'm saying, so we're not I thought we were gonna overhaul OCE too.
Yeah, we are. OCE is gonna be using the ERP.
I understand that.
Lucity, the
What's the
asset
difference?
management with the ERP is not as effective for utilities as the software they are using. That's why we keep in Lucity.
Okay. And OCE is just gonna go over to the Tyler workflow.
That's correct. OCE, parks, and I believe, yeah, facilities.
So it works for everybody else except for utilities.
Yeah, they're picky.
Go ahead.
That's true.
And on strategic objective number 3, better utilization of our natural resources. Of course, we're always coordinating with our outside agencies, whether it be through information or hopefully grant funding to help us achieve our goals. And then, of course, the funding of alternative water supply projects. We are pursuing that, and hopefully will help offset the cost of that process. And then, decrease nutrient loading. That is the goal, and the Springs Protection is to increase treatable wastewater and effluent that is discharged to the groundwater. And we're continually doing that. And it's the right thing to do, but, to decrease a nutrient loading, but, the source that we're discharging to is where we get our drinking water from, and long term that's the life of our blood and the life of our life is having water in order to continue to live. And so with that, the ending slide is April is Water Conservation Month, and we know why we do it because it is worth it. So if you have any comments or
Commissioner Moore.
questions.
Just got a question, because you mentioned talking about other counties. I had heard that some people over in Citrus County were looking at possibly on the Barge Canal desalination in the future. Have you heard anything have you had any contact to see if that's just a rumor or if that's?
I'm not aware that, of Citrus County doing anything. Maybe they were looking at it as an alternative, but.
I don't know if it was a Citrus County thing or if it maybe is a private firm, but I guess down in Tampa, they have desal, and somebody was mentioning that they were looking up at that area because they already had the barge canal and they already had the old plant where they used to bring in the water, where they're shutting down the units 1, 2, they've shut down 1, 3, they're shutting down 1, 2, 4, and 5 or something. I forget what,
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember the conversation, I'm messing
It
up.
was actually at our last,
Where was it?
with Lacoochee Regional Water Supply Authority Board meeting. There was a presentation made on desalinization, and
that
they
where it
had
was?
actually talked about that as a possibility. At this time, they've ruled that out.
They ruled it out,
Yes,
okay.
it's too expensive.
Okay. Is it, I was gonna say, if they ever desal there, we need to pipe that in to us, you know?
Having
It's still
lived in.
cheaper to go, I mean, Devo already did the study.
Yeah.
It's still cheaper to put our well field in the forest.
The thing, having lived in this area for the last 30
Probably
years,
know, right?
not necessarily here, but also Hernando, Citrus counties. I've grew up or lived in this area for quite some time, and they used to not have desalinization in Tampa. The reason that they have desalinization is because they overpumped the groundwater, and having fresh water to drink, they had no alternative. They were going to the north, and we were, as Marion County, are rich with water resources. And of course, the talk was, and a lot of people don't even know or realize this, the city of St. Petersburg used to own the water rights of Weeki Wachee Springs. And the plan was to run a pipeline from Weeki Wachee Springs all the way down to St. Pete to have the fresh water that they would need for their system. So through all of that, the discussions and funding and grant opportunities, Water Management started helping them to fund desalinization, and so now they do have it. So in our case, currently we have an abundance of water, at least good water now. If the alternative water sources that are in the lower Floridan that help offset the upper surface water, or upper Floridan that we are using, then we may never need to go to an alternative like desalinization. And it is expensive. It's expensive to operate, and then also to get rid of the brine after they run the process.
That's something that, from a state legislative policy, I mean, if the state ever comes to that, the water management districts need to fund and help them fund desalination on the coasts and leave the water.
Some regional
Right, I
type
mean,
system.
The water, then we'll have plenty of water if they don't pump ours.
Right.
That's right.
So
That's
do
right.
you all have any other questions or any other comments? Otherwise, we'll move to our next presentation. So
Good
thank
job,
you.
Bob.
Thank you,
Thank
Chris.
you. Next, we'll have Mr. Goodspeed with Facilities Management.
Thank you, sir. Jared Goodspeed, Facilities Director. It's my pleasure to present the 2019-2023 Strategic Plan. So I'll briefly review our vision and mission first. I think it's one of the most important parts of this and kind
What
of our
facility
guiding
is
force. Excuse me, Mr. Zalek, Commissioner.
Facility.
So being that it's a strategic plan, that is actually the future. We're a dreamer,
It's a
so
future facility.
that's something that,
gotcha.
yeah,
Hey,
and
that's
you'll
pretty
see
good
it.
cover, man. I would like
Lines
that.
up with
It's
our
good on his
vision as
feet,
well.
man. I appreciate that, Jared.
So we'll talk about who we are, who we serve, review our current conditions, look at where we're at and where we want to be. This provides a foundation, our vision and mission of who we want to be, and that's really we're going to embrace modern workforce, advanced maintenance techniques, and embrace continuous improvements to all of our work processes. You'll notice that our mission statement is very similar to Marion County's, and we wanted to keep it that way because we want to be in line with the county. And that is that facilities management is dedicated to serve the staff and customers of Marion County through professional operations and resource stewardship. The department is focused on reliable customer service, development of employees, accountability, and providing a safe and positive work environment. And I think that last part of that is extremely important, and we've been enforcing that a lot in the team, is being safe, being positive. I think that grows a lot from that. And our vision is something we've came back to since we've been developing this, and I explained this earlier today, that it's kind of like our North Star, that every time we talked about what are these goals, what do we need to do to move forward, well, we always went back to, well, what are we trying to accomplish? And really what we want to do is we want to be known for a transparent and innovative team that provides high-quality customer service while embracing a constantly evolving work environment. Whether that be technology, whether that be a shifting economy, we want to be able to adapt to that. So Marion County Facilities Department is a team that consists of administration, operations management, project management. Our team of technicians consists of multiple construction trades, including electrical, HVAC, plumbing, cabinetry, masonry, painting, and more. Facilities is responsible for preventive maintenance, building repairs, ground maintenance, renovation, construction management, and energy management services for all county-owned buildings. Once again, it's our goal to ensure that our staff and citizens can perform their daily business in a functional and safe work environment. This is a current review of our organizational chart just to kind of show you where the majority of our tradesmen are at. We have 45 employees, and we maintain over 3.2 million square feet, and we provide supervision for all vertical construction for county-owned buildings. One thing I do want to point out that we only have 2 openings right now. I know it's not part of the plan, but it's something that we're very proud of. We were down 10 earlier, and that's when you have 32 technicians. That's quite a void, so we're building a strong team.
Great job.
Who we serve, our internal customers are, all of our internal departments. Our external customers are the citizens, jail inmates, any other businesses or visitors that come to Marion County and visit our buildings. We have many external agencies. We're able to maintain all of these 370 buildings for roughly $2 a square foot. And that's something that we're able to accomplish. When we get into the SWAT, you'll see that it's really our dedicated staff, the experience that we have here, enables us to reduce the amount of outsourced services. A brief overview of our history and kind of how we've gotten to where we are today. We were established in 1982, then called Building Maintenance, had a staff of 11 technicians, and they maintained 300,000 square feet. So fast forward all the great things that we've done. We peaked in 2009, we had 62 employees, managing 3 million square feet. Today we're at 45, managing 3.2 million square feet. And I think it's important to point out is that our group evolves based on what's best suited to be outsourced external businesses for the services that we have and what we do in-house. So that's why you kind of see the ebb and flows. You'll notice that we had parks and recreation was under us at one point, and it's just really what makes the best business decision for the county, and that's the way we evolve. So if you look at our SWAT, back to some of our main strengths is we have experienced a dedicated staff. We have people here on average that have been here for 10 years. We have people up to 30 years. With that, brings some weaknesses that we have some outdated work processes, some outdated policies that we can work on. So there's opportunities to bring up a mentorship and succession planning, somewhere we can actually extract all that knowledge of those people that we have here today without letting them retire, out without passing that on. Changing from our
retire.
I have one person I've been dragging their feet right now, but eventually they all do. So we like to update our policies. We'd like to go from more of a reactive force to a proactive. Some of our threats, regulatory changes, some things we can't control, things such as ADA compliance, any type of other building compliance that gets put into place, we have to adhere to that. Our aging buildings and assets, and once again, our staff reaching retirement age. So one of our key things we're looking at is developing some benchmarks. It hasn't been one of our strong suits. So we did some data mining. We just want to look at some of the trends of where we're at today to make some decisions on where we want to be tomorrow. We've had a steady increase in workflow, a steady increase in work orders, that also increased as our our team didn't grow, it kind of increased the amount of duration it took us to complete each work order. So you'll notice that in the top right chart that we've dropped back down just in January 2019, almost back to the 2012 era and range of getting it done within about 8 days per work order. And what we did is we just took out some variables. So some of that, we had some, our day-to-day workflows are, everything comes in from a small work, from a project to a work order, your lights out, or I want a new wall. So what we did is we said, hey, let's take the work orders, we're gonna actually put those in based on the criticality. So the day-to-day work comes in, how critical is it? If it's detrimental to your business, we're going to be there. It's an emergency maintenance. But we asked our departments to say, if it's something that's not that, if it's a small project, it's going to go into a different workflow. We're going to hold it, we're going to look at it, assess it, and that's going to be assessed based on dollar value and complexity, not just what the criticality is. So day-to-day workflow is coming in a different path, if that makes sense. So we have the operations and then project management that we've split up a little bit. And that's been able to have us control the workflow a little bit better. So some other key points, some data as you look at our workload, some of our departments. Marion County Sheriff's Office, which is our jail area, they take up, on average, from 2012 to 2018, that's 28.6% of our work orders that come in is from that department alone. So we do have a satellite area there that have 5 technicians, so we're able to manage that. Number 2 is actually the Judicial Center, because that includes the clerks as well. We also have a satellite unit there that has 2 technicians. We're able to manage that. So when you look at number 2, which is actually 3, and I apologize for that because I didn't combine Judicial Center and the clerks, that's fire rescue. About 11% of our work that comes in is from the fire department, and it's a very reactive system right now. We've actually put into place, and it's implemented on Monday. We're going to create a strike team, and they're going to go out, and that's all they're going to do. They're going to review every fire department, probably about on a 2-week cycle, go to every single one. They're going to develop a relationship. Contacted the chief and explained that to him, and he had a very chief answer where he said, "I thought of that 5 years ago."
Very cheap answer. What kind of things are you having to go out to the fire departments and do?
So we ran analysis on that, and the number 1 was electrical issues. So whether it be a light out or there's not a power and outlet. Number 2 is actually HVAC, whether it's too hot, whether it's too cold, and air quality. Number 3 was plumbing. That's really not something you get proactive on. A lot of it's, my sink's clogged. We're not going to be able to fix that beforehand unless we go there and we actually monitor it, and we're going to fill up, do some testing. So we're going to put together 1 electrician, 1 HVAC technician to start out with. They're going to go there and do a building analysis, all inclusive. And they'll talk with the people there, get their ideas, what's going on. We'll be back. If it's Monday, we'll be back in 2 Mondays, and create a list. That way we can control the way that work comes in as well, that when our guys find something, they can schedule it with the right team if they can't do it at that time. And explain it to them that we don't have it all perfect, but let's try it and let's evolve. We'll sit down in 2 weeks after you go through it, or in 4 weeks when you go through each station twice, and figure out what more we need. I think it's a very important thing to do.
Thank you.
So moving on, looking
Are
at...
you working on too?
Yeah.
Can you control the HVAC in every facility we have?
The majority of them we can. They're on different systems. When we say control, we can remotely control the majority of our buildings, yes. The fire stations, we cannot. Those are standalone at this time.
Can we get them?
Yes, we can. That's
On a
one of,
system?
that's one of the things that we're looking at, yeah. So we are, in the background, we have started, and it's part of one of the plans, but we have initiated a building into air quality
You
management
can lock
program.
out the individuals being able to mess with that stuff and be able to set it from a facility standpoint like you do all these buildings, right?
We can give them a range. So there's a little more. There's some other policies that go into it. They do have a CBA that allows them to do certain things with it as well that we do.
What?
A collective bargaining agreement. They do have in that, it says they have the
Bargaining
ability.
agreement?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it has limitations as well, and I think that,
That's Amanda's fault.
but we've explained that it's really an
It's a
education.
Amanda.
It's still her fault. She's
Part-
negotiated it twice from.
That's a chief band.
No, it's good, but part of the building air quality really is they can
Is
change it from heating to cooling. They can change it a couple of
Right.
degrees.
Yeah.
But it's part of education there too, is where there's humidity issues as well as temperature. And so us going there and just talking with them, explaining what the building is currently designed at, and keep it at a certain range so the humidity is controlled as well, it's going to give them a better feel in their building. And if we want to go to a different capacity, then we'll look at what that would take to get there. So our first strategic goal, I did kind of a tiered approach because there's some foundational things that we really need to do before we move on to where we want to be in 5 years. The first one is the focus is on development. And number 1 is a department-wide training program. If you remember back to our last budget, we asked for additional money, and we got that. And so we're developing an internal training program for all of our technicians to where they're actually going to be able to sit down every week or 2 weeks. We'll give them dedicated time. We'll have a workstation. We'll have a flow of different training programs we'd like them to take. And we're looking at a program right now that it's all-inclusive, almost every construction trade, from the new OSHA requirements for safety, even though we don't follow, it's good to know them, but basic electricity to single phase to 3-phase to electricity to everything that even our staff can take, to where just the jargon and lingo, if you're our budget coordinator, it's nice to know that. It's easier for approving, purchases for anybody in the field. So we're working on that currently. You'll see that it doesn't have a budget impact, and that's because we did increase our budget the previous year to consider that. The second part says 25,000. That is an estimate. That is more for if we look at certifications that we need that benefit the county. An example I'll give is a backflow assembly tester's license. It's about $1,000 to send somebody to that. We don't need 25 people, but our analysis shows it would cost about $15,000 if we outsourced it. Plus, we lose the control of, protecting our water sources and the repairs on time, on schedule. So that was something that we've already done. But if there's additional certifications or licenses, that would be a different expenditure and different cost to the budget. But we haven't sat down and analyzed all that yet. We were doing that. Number two, we are one of the departments that does not have a competency matrix. It's something that we'd like to have. We'd like to have a clear path for progression, clear expectations of what each role, their behavior, and their skills should be. And that's currently set at a no budget impact, depending on obviously what studies come back, and if there's a different salary for each position, we'll look at that. Number two, customer service. We want to create some benchmarks for all services. You saw some on the previous slide. We want a lot more benchmarks. We want to know if it's an emergency maintenance or corrective maintenance, or if it's a project. How close are we on budget? How close are we on schedule? We want to keep track of all that. How much drive time do we have? How much tool time do we have? Number four, dedicated project management team. Right now we have a lot of information that flows through about 2 single people. It's a very small conduit for the amount of information that we have. We'd like to expand that and not just have a project coordinator. We'd like to have a project manager with maybe another staff assistant or parts delivery individual. We're looking at all that to say, how can we save money? How can we push this big body of work into a dedicated team to make sure that it's on schedule more and tracked? Accountability. We want to improve our building management plans. We discussed a little earlier, I'd like to implement a building air quality program, something that we're going to go through every building, assess it, monitor that on a year basis. Any type of improvements that we do for one building should be good for the other. If we're going to go to UV lights, or if we're going to go different filtration, if we're going to go to certain limits of contaminants in a building, whether it be CO or anything, that we'll start doing that. According to ASHRAE standards or OSHA standards, EPA, we have some plans in place that we'd like to follow. The building analysis is really getting a total understanding of all of our buildings, from the rooftop to the foundation, of the age, the depreciations. We can more accurately assess what the cost needs to be moving forward. When we say, I need $500,000 to replace this HVAC unit, why? Is it past its life expectancy? Do we have an increase in repairs? Is it now obsolete? Can we not get parts for it? So that's what that analysis plan is. And at the top, innovation. We'd like to get to implement some advanced techniques, such as vibration analysis, thermal imaging. There's some things that we've done in the past that we don't currently do all the time, and those are, you can predict things before they fail, so then you can repair them on your schedule, where it doesn't take down a building when you don't have that planned, or it doesn't put somebody out of business for a week. We have to shut something down, that we can predict when something's going to happen, repair it before it does happen. So this is an organizational chart based on our increase in FTEs and our strategic plan. And you'll notice that there's a new project management team. There's an additional technician at the jail complex, additional electrician that is for the predictive maintenance plan, additional HVAC tech, which is for the building air quality plan. And we've moved around a couple of people, which we're actually doing now. We've noticed that we need another person at the jail, or at the courthouse, excuse me. And we've expanded that JC3, but we didn't include another technician. There's a need for another person, so we would move around some of our current people to balance out that workload. And then this is just a quick overview, financial analysis of what's in our current plan for the next 5 years, and if the strategic plans were implemented, what the cost impact would be. So currently within GovMax, you can see we had 6 FTEs over the next 5 years projected. We've changed in the strategic plan. It changes some of the tiers and the implementation process. So with that, if you have any questions.
I'll bring it to the board. I have a question. The vision that you put together, how did you come to that vision? And you called it, you referenced your North Star?
Yeah. So that was, we looked at our mission and what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I don't remember who said it, but they talked about the high card being kind of the North Star, that if you make a daily decision, you look at that high card, even if you don't have guidance, that will be your guidance. And we wanted to create something for any long-term things and decisions that we make, what will be a very similar aspect. And that's what we came up with, thinking, hey, if we're transparent, we want to give all the information we can, everybody should be able to view what we do and how accurate we are, how efficient we are, and be innovative. And so let's make those decisions that makes our team innovative. If somebody does leave, and I tell my people all the time, I want you to be here because you want to be here, not because you have to be here. But if something happens in life and you have to move to take care of a loved one, I want you to go there and I want to go, wow, where are you from? Marion County. And how do you know all this stuff? It's, hey, I was with a team that we were innovative, we learned a lot, we worked as a team, we did continued process of improvement. So that's kind of our goal, is to get to that. So
Very good.
yeah, and I think we've done that with safety, and I think we're going to continue to do it. And that is one of our personal goals as well, is to be a leader in safety and start creating some policies and kind of spearhead some things for the county as well.
And what about your mentorship program? Is that more internal at this point?
Yeah, so it's something we're working on, and it is internal. We have, like I talked about earlier, when I first got here, it was one of the things that I saw, wow, there's some amazing people. You see what they're doing outside, that if that information, the fact that we don't have something in place to stick, when you see two people working together, sometimes people think, oh, there's the county, two people working. We need to put a tech one or somebody that doesn't have as much experience with somebody who does have the 20 years experience, so they can teach them how to do that. So that is the internal mentoring program, would be teaming up some people, whether it's their trade or not, whether you put somebody that doesn't know carpentry or somebody who does, to learn that, to try to extract some of that knowledge from them.
Well, I applaud the mentorship program. That's great. Anything else? If not, thank you so much for the work that you've done and your team, and you do amazing work.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, we are down to 10 minutes, Miss Loretta, for tourism development.
It's good, she speaks fast.
Oh, I'm quick, you know that.
Just tell her yes to everything she asked for, and she's good with
Wow.
No, don't do that. You know I like questions.
Okay, first question, why do we have two?
Her.
I think one may be her presentation, her slides. And the other is the actual plan.
Yeah. She said she liked questions.
We're ready when you are.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Well, good morning. Loretta Schaefer, Tourist Development Director. I'm very excited to be able to share with you today the Tourist Development Department's proposed strategic plan for fiscal years 2019 through 2023. Our VCB team is comprised of 7 professionals who work synergistically and collaboratively to move Ocala-Marion County forward. I appreciate all the support you have entrusted in each of us, as well as the administration, and I am very thankful and feel blessed to have these individuals by my side, as their grit, loyalty, and the love they have for our community shines in their work and is an integral part of our success story. The Tourist Development Department operates under State Statute 125-0104, which regulates the spending of the tourist development tax that is paid directly by tourists. Every accommodator who rents or leases any living quarters or accommodations for a period of 6 months or less has a responsibility to collect the tourist development tax from the guest and remit it in a timely manner to the tax collector's office. The tax collector is charged with the responsibility of collection, administration, and the enforcement of the tourist development tax laws. The proposed Ocala-Marion County Visitors and Convention Bureau strategic plan is carefully aligned with State Statute 125-0104 and their spending guidelines. The Tourist Development Council is an advisory council whose primary responsibility is to advise and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on matters relating to the overall operation of the Tourism Bureau and to ensure conformity with those provisions in State Statute 125-0104. The non-members that comprise the Tourist Development Council are 3 elected officials, 3 lodging accommodators, and 3 members who are involved and have demonstrated an interest in tourism. The members of the council are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners and serve staggered 4-year terms. By focusing on our key differentiators and our one-of-a-kind offerings, allows for us to further highlight our amazing climate, the abundant diversity in our natural landscapes and our wide open spaces that offer the perfect backdrop for our picturesque outdoor playground, our rich history and heritage. We are easily accessible and centrally located right in the middle of the state. And we are known all over the world as the horse capital of the world. And of course, we can offer and deliver upon a community that is thriving and inviting and friendly in its overall atmosphere. The proposed 5-year strategic plan was built to serve as a blueprint for achieving an even higher level of excellence while driving economic growth and prosperity. The overall plan is broken down into 4 buckets that focus on new product development, marketing and promotion, research, and lastly, partner development. For the key strategic imperatives that will be further explained throughout this presentation. A quick history of the department, which was birthed in 2004. During the department's early years, major focus was placed on funding events with minimal marketing as the budget was still under $1 million in bed tax collections. To advance our areas of opportunities and create an even greater level of success for our community, in 2013, the VCB created the first 5-year strategic plan for our department. This allowed us to conduct research to find the right customer and establish our brand. Through your leadership, in 2015, the 3rd and 4th penny were further adopted, which allowed for us to have more resources to move Ocala-Marion County forward. The VCB is currently in the 5th year of the first strategic plan. And since 2013, your VCB has received 22 awards that have helped to further position Ocala-Marion County as a key destination in Florida, further increasing our brand awareness on a local, state, national, and even international level.
And I'll just pause and say congratulations, Loretta. That is a phenomenal achievement for all of the many awards you and your team have achieved.
Thank you, I appreciate it, but we never would have gotten there without your support, so we thank you all. Those are your awards for certain. To date, our most recent research shows that we have seen great success by the numbers. Our 1.9 million visitors have contributed almost $1 billion of economic impact into our community. Bed tax reached $2.8 million in 2018, and the projection is continued to increase to $3.9 million by fiscal year 2022 and 2023. In addition to the creation of almost 12,000 jobs, tourism saves $550 per year per household in local taxes. Visitors offset $19.7 million in sales and property taxes. And as we strive to continue to provide an excellent visitor experience, we see that for every dollar spent on marketing, that every visitor spends $69. That's a great number for return on investment. The increase in demand has generated the building of new hotels all around the county, which have allowed us to have even more opportunities for advancement and growth. To develop the proposed 2019 to 2023 strategic plan, the VCB implemented the same process that was used in developing the 2013 to 2018 strategic plan that included community infusion through workshops and one-on-ones with key stakeholders, a BCC and TDC joint workshop, as well as data-driven research with industry trends on the state, national, and international levels. Focused on return on investment and return on an opportunity, business opportunity objectives, the VCB will continue to work with key stakeholders to enhance our local economy by increasing year-round visitation and by continuing the advancement of our shoulder season growth. Increasing both bed tax and the total economic impact into our community, and ultimately striving to be an effective organization for all visitors and our community at large. Throughout the process, there were 5 key tourism drivers that were identified in priority, that being the horse capital of the world, the horse and the equine industry. outdoor adventure and ecotourism, sports and sporting events, arts, culture, history, heritage, and education, and dining and entertainment. Throughout the process, it was acknowledged that tourism is a priority for driving economic development for Marion County, and areas of opportunities were further identified to advance the operation. Overall, there was a shared desire amongst all to deliver positive experiences to visitors congruent with expectations and goals. Florida welcomed 118 million visitors in 2017. As we look at industry trends, Ocala-Marion County is perfectly positioned and poised to capitalize on several of these key findings that you'll find here on this slide. As you know, Florida remains second, is the fastest growing state within the United States. And furthermore, you can see here that driving visitors accounted for 57% of the visitation into the state. There's a growing trend for unique, non-traditional meeting facilities. And the meeting decision makers are looking for unique experiences like the ones that we definitely have to offer. And airports continue to experience year-over-year growth, which allows for us to further capture visitors from those international airports and in-state markets. Once again, aligning with Empowering Marion for Success, the mission statement, the vision statement, core values, and guiding principles were revised from the first strategic plan to reflect the feedback we received throughout the process. Ocala-Marion County will be recognized as a thriving tourism destination for its natural, picturesque attractions perfect for outdoor recreation. We can certainly deliver on that. Understanding our market is important to the growth of our destination. By recognizing our strengths and converting our weaknesses into opportunities for growth, we can further grow the overall economic impact of tourism into our community. Again, delivering on those areas, as you see here, such as outdoor recreation, horse capital of the world, the thriving, welcoming community with Old Town Florida charm, we certainly have a lot that we can work with to continue to mine for even more strengths in the future. Common themes kept coming up in our community and stakeholder meetings. That theme was that we are a welcoming destination and that we have a great front porch offerings. And these 5 pillars are truly what you would call kind of our calling cards. Our first impression pillars of importance of what we are known for and how we can continue to deliver on and answer as to our why. First impressions are everything, and Ocala-Marion County can easily deliver on a welcoming community where everyone is welcome and diversity is truly woven into our DNA. Throughout the process, these tourism drivers have been ordered in priority of our stakeholder engagement. Similar to what was in the Empowering Marion for Success plan, outdoor adventure and ecotourism is a vital and key component to maximizing our tourism offerings. Marion County offers more unique and diverse outdoor activities than almost any other destination in Florida, which allows us to target and capture the right customer with the right message. Sports marketing plays an important role in our success and will continue to be a key focus as our destination offers facilities for every type of year-round sporting event. Ocala-Marion County appeals to many different types of teams and organized groups due to being conveniently located in the middle of the state and directly off of I-75. This affords us the opportunity to position ourselves with incentives and the abundance of off-the-field activities our county is now known for. As we embark on our 175th anniversary of the chartering of Marion County, another key pillar in our tourism foundation that was identified was arts, culture, history, heritage, and education. Ocala-Marion County embodies a breadth of activities for all ages and has become a myriad of offerings for these activities. This allows us to further engage unique niche-based groups and new visitors who may not have visited our destination. I'm sorry, I had the wrong click. Dining and entertainment are vital components of a well-rounded visitor experience, and our growing and thriving culinary and entertainment scene is in a transformational mode that has created award-winning chefs and restaurants, New restaurant openings are happening and eateries are expanding throughout our county. Agritourism offerings have increased as more and more restaurants adopt farm-to-table experiences. Amazing events and music offerings will continue to contribute to our overall success. Based off the 5 key tourism drivers that were outlined in this plan and the research we currently have available, the VCB has worked to develop a community-centric strategic plan that further defines the customer set. We will continue to follow a strategic, research-driven approach to look for new areas of opportunities with visitors who are looking for hidden gems that allow them to enjoy unique, off-the-beaten-path experiences while creating lasting memories with loved ones that bring visitors coming back again and again. Our projected budget is included and is positioned to support this strategic plan. On behalf of my team and I thank you for your continued support, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
You covered that very well. Let me ask the board, do you have any questions? Thoughts or conversations that we need to address today with this?
Just keep doing the great job.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to your staff as well and the many stakeholders that helped you put this together. We appreciate that. I'll just bring it back to the board if there is any additional conversation or discussion to be had. I think the quality of our teams shone through greatly today in the strategic plans that we were presented. And we appreciate the work that you've done, and now we'll continue to move forward for the future with them. And I hope you all enjoy your afternoon. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.